The guards scrutinized the battered Hugo closely. Their expressions quickly shifted from suspicion to concern. "Who are you? You've got some guts to attack a member of the Langford family. Tell Mr. Ethan that an old friend has come to visit," Dustin said impassively. "Hurry. Please let Uncle Ethan know." Hugo, lying on the ground, gasped weakly. The two guards exchanged a glance and didn't hesitate. One stayed on guard while the other rushed inside to deliver the message. 3 minutes later, a group of heavily armed guards burst out, surrounding Dustin and Maximus with a formidable presence. "Who's looking for me?" At that moment, a burly middle-aged man with a well-groomed beard strode forward confidently. He had a square face, thick eyebrows, and imposing features. Behind him were two elderly men with white hair, one chubby and the other slender. Both appeared unassuming but exuded an air of depth that sent shivers down Maximus' spine, causing him to break out in a cold sweat. "UNCL Uncle Ethan, please help me," Hugo cried out as if he'd just spotted a savior. "What?" Ethan's gaze immediately settled on the battered Hugo. Hugo's hair was disheveled, his face was swollen, and blood flowed from his nose and mouth. "Who dares to lay a hand on a member of the Langford family?" Ethan's face grew stern, and his gaze was piercing. "Uncle Ethan, it's him. He's the one. Who attacked me?" Hugo staggered forward, pointing at Dustin and wailing, "This guy's got some nerve. Not only did he cause a commotion at the Golden Balcony, but he also hurt me badly. You've got to back me up on this." Ethan followed Hugo's pointing finger and was about to assert his authority when he froze. His eyes widened, and his expression turned to one of sheer surprise. "It's you?" Looking at the familiar face before him, Ethan couldn't maintain his composure. Several months ago, he had visited Swinton to attend his nephew Arlo Langford's engagement celebration. Afterward, he had endured a month of relentless nightmares, which still haunted him to this day. Little did he expect that the source of those nightmares had now appeared at his doorstep. Thoughts raced in Ethan's mind. What was the purpose of this visit? Settling old scores? Seeking vengeance for Arlo, who had stolen Dustin's bride? Ethan was flustered, and beads of cold sweat formed on his forehead. 10 years ago, Logan Reese was a name that struck fear into the hearts of many. He was renowned as a vile demon, and anyone unfortunate to cross his path suffered dire consequences. Even those with royal connections had to be cautious around him. Even though a decade had passed, the West Lucosian monarchy still wielded significant power, and Logan continued to be a figure that commanded universal dread. The consequences would be unimaginable if he intended to cause trouble for the Langford family. "Mr. Ethan, we meet again," Dustin said faintly. Ethan's eyes twitched, and he was momentarily at a loss for words. Before him stood the person considered to be an unlucky star, someone he dared not offend or befriend. Even speaking to him seemed to invite disaster. It was indeed a difficult situation. "Uncle Ethan, why are you just standing there? It was this guy who attacked me. You should deal with him right away." Unaware of the tension, Hugo continued to shout, "Kid, you dare to act recklessly in front of our Langford family's gates? Your days are numbered. Shut up." Ethan had reached his breaking point and slapped Hugo in frustration. The force of the slap sent Hugo sprawling to the ground, leaving everyone in the crowd bewildered. They exchanged incredulous looks, struggling to process what had just transpired. What on earth is happening here? Shouldn't Ethan be dealing with the troublemaker who barged in? Some in the crowd whispered. Why did Hugo get slapped? Is this some kind of mix-up? Uncle Ethan? Hugo held his cheek, looking confused. Why'd you hit me? Ethan's anger flared, and he threatened, "You blind fool. I'm gonna slap you again." He stormed over, landing a series of punches and kicks while yelling, "You laze around all day, bully people, and stir up trouble everywhere. Our family is ashamed to have a good-for-nothing like you. Today, I'm giving you a lesson on behalf of your father, you worthless scoundrel. Out. Please, stop. Uncle Ethan. I know I messed up." Hugo winced from the relentless blows and begged for mercy. The crowd was still stunned, sharing puzzled looks. Ethan's sudden burst of violence was not what they expected. Usually, when Hugo got into trouble, he'd get a good scolding. But this punishment was just too brutal. Cody and Harper, who had just arrived by car, were equally shocked by the scene. They thought Dustin would come to the Langford residence to make amends. They never imagined Ethan would lash out at Hugo like this. It left them wondering if influential folks had some peculiar habits. Did the Langford family take a crazy pill or something? In the car, Lana watched from a distance, her face showing astonishment. Everything that happened that night was completely unexpected. Mr. Ethan, he's your nephew, after all. Take it easy. You don't need to beat him to a pulp, Dustin said with a friendly smile. Ethan's face twitched, but he didn't stop the assault on Hugo. In Ethan's mind, he was thinking, hang in there, Hugo. I have no choice but to do this. It'll be over soon. Under Ethan's relentless barrage, Hugo lost consciousness. Someone nearby couldn't bear to watch any longer and said, Sir Ethan, please stop. If you keep beating him, Mr. Hugo might not make it. Ethan finally paused and grumbled, A bastard like him needs a solid lesson. He then waved his hand and gave the order. Someone, get this bastard out of here. Look after him, and give him family discipline once he's back on his feet. With Ethan's command, the nearly lifeless Hugo was carried away, bloodied and bruised. Sorry about that, Ethan said to Dustin, wearing an apologetic smile. I didn't handle this right, leading to this mess. If he had done anything to offend you, please forgive us. No hard feelings, Dustin replied with a friendly grin. I'm not here for payback. I just wanted to have a chat with you. A chat? Ethan gulped nervously. He couldn't help but think, what's there to talk about? With your status, don't you have some self-awareness? How can things go well for anyone who hangs around with you? While he complained silently, he managed a forced smile and said, No worries at all, come on in. Thanks, Dustin nodded, and with Maximus following, he entered the Langford residence. Outside, Cody, Harper, and Lana were left utterly dumbfounded. In the living hall inside the Langford residence, Ethan took charge, commanding, everyone, step outside. Only enter when I say so. With a gesture, he dismissed his subordinates and servants. Dustin signaled to Maximus. Why don't you take a breather in the adjacent hall for a while? I need a word with Mr. Ethan. Sure thing. Maximus nodded and quickly exited. As the doors closed, the grand living hall was left with only two people, Ethan and Dustin. Now more at ease, Ethan couldn't resist shedding his formal facade. Your Grace, what brings you here? Dustin's presence was a sensitive issue, given his role as the heir to the West Lucosian monarchy. As the imperial court minister, Ethan knew that having a private meeting with Dustin could stir up controversy and accusations of treachery or conspiracy. What's the deal, Mr. Ethan? You're not about to tell me you're unhappy to see me? Dustin asked with a sly grin. Internally, Ethan rolled his eyes. Oh, don't give me that. Do you think I'd welcome bad luck like you? I haven't lost my mind. Still, he maintained the act and said graciously, Your Grace, your visit brings a touch of grandeur to my humble abode. Is that so? Dustin poured himself a cup of tea and one for Ethan, who cautiously accepted it. Dustin continued, I was planning to visit you later, but it seems fate had other ideas, Ethan. Ethan's eye twitched. He silently cursed Hugo but outwardly maintained an honorable demeanor. I'm curious, Your Grace. What brings you here? How can I assist you? Dustin took a sip of tea and smiled. I've got 3 important matters on my plate. First, since I just arrived in Oakvale, I'm a bit strapped for cash. Can you help me out? Ethan visibly relaxed his shoulders. He was expecting something serious but was taken aback by such a simple request. Of course, no problem. I'll arrange the funds right away. How about 3 billion? And if that's not enough, I can get more. Here's the deal, Mr. Ethan, Dustin replied. I have a principle. I'm not a fan of living off other people's wealth. Money can always run out. Instead of giving me a fish, how about teaching me to fish? What do you say?